afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. What I want to do today is offer you my personal testimony as a Catholic convert with a background in the New Age, very much a New Age activist for 20 years of my life. But what I'm also hoping to do is somehow tie this in with the current social and political situation in Ireland today. Like I imagine everyone here, I've been very deeply affected by the referendum of the 25th of May. And it's as sure a sign as ever that Catholicism, Catholic culture, is maybe more endangered than it's ever been in 1,600 years of Catholic Christianity. And I'm hoping that some of my words as a convert may speak to that. And, you know, as a convert, I'm aware that I'm coming from a different place, probably, than maybe everyone in the room. Because I converted in my mid-30s, I have a memory of what it's like not to be a Catholic. I can remember distinctly this time in my life when I wasn't a Catholic. And I imagine there's not too many of you like that, if anyone. And really the difference of these two phases of my life, of being a Catholic versus not being a Catholic, are like day to night. You know, my life as a Catholic is immensely richer. And so when I see Ireland going down this path into post-Catholicism, entering the phase, I look at my life back then and it's boring. This New Age thing was like so meaningful to me, and it's nothing compared to what I have as a Catholic. So, day to night. And I'm going to use a term in this talk. I want to speak about, I sometimes call it the Catholic mystery. And I'm going to use that term for two reasons. One, it seems to me that we're taking on in our society more and more an idea that that religion is something kind of routine, or it's a set of rules, or it's a set of doctrines, and it's nothing else. And that's certainly what I thought as a New Ager. I thought religion, just a set of rules. But if I use a term like Catholic mystery in a very brief, compact way, I signal to people that there's something more than just a set of rules or a set of doctrines. Moreover, this term mystery really speaks to my experience because it really feels to me like something mysterious is working in my life. If I try to understand the enormous difference between myself as a New Ager and what I feel now, I have no other explanation except this mystery working. I will also just say that I am someone who tries to practice my faith seriously. For me, that includes trying to get to Mass daily, because I feel the Mass is part of this mystery that's working in my soul. It's changing me. I really, really feel that. And I really want to get away. I want to break down the idea that religion is something dull or a set of rules or things like that. Okay. To amplify this, I'm going to try and speak, converts come from all kinds of different places. So obviously some converts are Protestants who convert. Some people convert from other religions like Hinduism or Buddhism. Some are atheists or materialistic in their philosophical outlook. I wasn't any of those things. I wasn't religious, but I wasn't, an atheist or a philosophical materialist either. No, I was what is increasingly being called today, it's an increasingly common term, spiritual but not religious. In fact, I recently learned, I didn't know this, but people are using, it's become so common now, at least in the Anglosphere, that people have it now as an acronym. So 4 letters, SBNR, spiritual but not religious. It's scary to me how commonplace that's becoming. And I would have celebrated that as a New Ager. Because something else that really goes with my New Age orientation back when I was involved in that, as I look back on it now, is that, I might have said to you that I believed in diversity, or I believed in multiculturalism. New Ageism is very, very closely linked with progressivism. But in reality, I didn't think that spiritual but not religious was just another multicultural option. No, I believe this was the best option. I believe this was superior to religion. I believe that this was the best way, and religion was something outdated. All the time, in some way, I was sneering at religion, and I didn't even realize this. And it's rather ironic when I look at this, because, I never had a religion. I've never even been baptized before I came into the church. So how could I say, this is superior, or how could I feel this is superior if I've never experienced this? And it looks so arrogant now. It also looks to me like I was parroting something I didn't know, something that was being passed around. And I have to say that when I look at the people that are SBNR, spiritual but not religious, I have to say I really get a sense that the majority of them are like me. They've either never practiced a religion, never been religious at all, or if they had a religious background, it was something that they'd never lived seriously. And yet there is this, if you speak to New Age people, you will find, I think, this amazing confidence that this position is better. And so part of what I'm trying to talk about today is how I found out differently. I won't go into my conversion. It'll take too long. I do have that on my YouTube channel, and I have it in my book. But maybe I'll just say a little bit about the New Age movement. As Stephen says, I was at the Findhorn community in Scotland, which is one of the most potent sources of the New Age ideology. There's a Vatican document that speaks that the New Age movement had two powerhouses, that's the term, that gave birth to the New Age. One of them is Esalen in California, and the other one is Findhorn in Scotland. And just as an aside, the places those are located are not insignificant. California in America, Britain. I maintain the New Age is a very Anglo-American ideology, although it's actually always presenting itself as some universal spirituality that transcends. It's maybe I need to try to define the New Age more, and unfortunately it's notoriously difficult to define the New Age. I could spend a whole hour here, and I've only got 20 minutes, trying to define what the New Age movement is. But I see Christians trying to get to grips with it. I see certain sort of Protestant videos often on YouTube, and they're kind of linking the New Age to Satanism. They link it to the Satanist Anton LaVey and things like that. And I have to say that I look at that, and I have to say the New Age doesn't have anything to do with Satanism. There's no link there whatsoever that I can see in its roots. New Agers are not Satanists. Or people say, well, the New Age is about the occult. And it's true that many New Agers are drawn to the occult, but many of them aren't, or many of them only have a very small kind of interest in that. No, what is really, I think, the best way of summing up the core of the New Age movement is this idea of spiritual but not religious. And I notice how that's come into the mainstream. So I first got involved in the New Age, something I got interested as a teenager, 40 years ago, when the New Age movement was quite young. And back then, if I remember correctly, nobody was speaking about being spiritual but not religious. It just wasn't part of the culture. but it's come into the culture, and I would say the New Age movement is a major way that that's been fostered or even born in the culture. And I know people that sort of say about the New Age, like, well, this is harmless, isn't it? You know, it's just a kind of harmless thing. There's just some eccentric little people out there. No, New Age books are huge. They're selling millions and millions and millions. I was in one of the major bookshops in Dublin. I saw like 6 shelves devoted to New Age stuff and 2 shelves devoted to Christianity. It's huge, and Catholics are often really unaware of this. But even if it is a small fringe of people, the ideas are going into the mainstream. And this spread of SBNR, so common now that it's an acronym, wasn't around 40 years ago. And personally, I won't necessarily be able to substantiate it all for you now, but I think what's happened in this abortion referendum is not completely unrelated to the idea that you can be spiritual but not religious. I think there's a link between the two. And maybe, as I said, I can't prove that now, but maybe I can suggest a little to you why I believe that. I think it's really to do with the fact that I see, that what I'm calling this day versus night experience, I see that Catholicism, the Catholic mystery, has given me things that New Age or SBNR never gave me, and I don't believe ever could give me. And this may sound a little strange to some of you, but I think one of the things it's given me, the gift of suffering. I think it's allowed me to suffer in new ways. And I'll give you an example that I hope is relevant. When this referendum result came in, it hurt. I imagine it hurt all of us. It really, really hurt. I was stunned, and I was in pain. And I'm glad I was in pain. Because, as a New Ager, I wouldn't have been in pain about this at all. I would have thought it was progress or something. But it really hurt. And I find myself thinking now, in Ireland, very broadly speaking, we have 2 types of people, or maybe 2 ends of the spectrum. There are those of us who are really feeling hurt by the idea that Ireland is now going to be legally killing babies and empowering mothers to kill babies. And there are those people that are hurting. And at the time of the referendum, there were people celebrating about this very openly. You could say dancing in the streets, so to speak. I saw those images, just dancing in the streets at this result. And I found myself feeling, I'm in pain about this, but these people aren't in pain at all. And it's the Catholic mystery that's given me this pain. It's Catholicism that's given me this pain. It's the sacraments that's given me this pain. And my heart is sensitized. In some way, my heart is sensitized in a way that it would not have been sensitized before I was a New Ager, back when I was a New Ager. Another way that, I want to make a small qualification. I know that there are pro-choice people that weren't dancing in the streets. I know that there would be a kind of person who really felt the tragedy of abortion and somehow maybe gritted their teeth and voted for a pro-choice position. I'm not talking about those kinds of people. I think if they voted pro-choice, they're severely misguided. But that's different from dancing in the streets about this. And yeah, it seems to me that pain is an important part of Catholicism. Something else that is very anti-modern and I would never understand as a New Ager. Seems to me that Catholicism has given me the gift of guilt. It's important to feel remorse about what you've done wrong. Now I know there are neurotic forms of guilt, But in general, people speak about Catholic guilt in this kind of pejorative or negative way. But maybe it's a strange testimony. Power of the Catholic mystery. Because Catholicism leads you to remorse about what you've done wrong. And it's important. Now, here I am. I'm saying here are the gifts of Catholicism. Suffering, guilt, okay? If the person who I was as a New Ager heard me speaking today, well, he'd think I'd completely lost my mind. But I think what he would also say is, aren't you really morose, Roger? Aren't you being negative? Aren't you being despairing, depressive, dour? And I find myself thinking that here's a response which he wouldn't understand, but I'm going to give it to you. In Ireland, there was a symbol, there was an icon even, that was once very, very commonplace. You still see it in cemeteries. But it was much more commonplace than that, and I'm speaking about the image of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Irish homes had those in their homes, home after home after home after home, with a torch or a candle, a light lit beside it, to honor the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And if you look at the iconography of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, you will see that the heart is wounded. The heart is bleeding. I think the heart of Jesus is wounded by what has happened in this abortion referendum far more than we can ever begin to imagine. When I say Catholicism, the Catholic mystery is like day to night, I mean that I feel enlivened by it. I feel a passion for it. I would never in a million years want to go back to Findhorn, to this sort of spirituality, but not religious. It's something that seems to me dull and boring. There's something that I feel in the richness of being a Catholic that was completely absent from my life then, and I would never want to go back to it. And I also feel like there are other riches. It's like this is the third time I've been invited to speak at the Legion of Mary, and thank you for those who organized that. But I've been very deeply touched every time I've come. And there are qualities that I felt at your conferences, qualities that I could speak of words like piety or reverence or a kind of heartfelt sincerity. And I find myself thinking, at Findhorn, you wouldn't find any of these qualities. You don't find these qualities in the spiritual but not religious movement. There is a joy, there is meaning, there is depth that I could never find there. In my opinion, this joy of being a Catholic is something that seems to me far more substantial and deep because it's mixed with pain, because it's mixed with tears. It's something that's deeper than the joy of dancing in the streets, which seems to me like it's going to be something very, very temporary. And I don't want to sort of launch like an angry diatribe at people dancing in the streets. I think that we need to remember the words of our Lord, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." And really, I have to say that the only way that I can interpret dancing in the streets about this is that these people are victims. They've been stripped of the Catholic mystery. They've been deprived of the sacraments. They've been deprived of the mysterious forces that work through the sacraments to bring the heart alive. And I also speak as someone who, I'm British, I'm American, I didn't mention that, but Ireland is something incredibly important to me. I first came here 15 years ago, and I was then touched by qualities here that I never experienced in my life growing up in America and Britain, and I'm very, very concerned about what we're losing here and the need the need to defend and preserve the Catholic mystery. I'm going to finish with one last image. A few years ago, I was at a dinner party, and there was a sort of British lady there, and she was, as I interpret her anyway, she was a very New Age type. And she asked me a question. And I don't remember the question exactly, but it was something like, well, Roger, what has Catholicism given you? Could you tell me it quickly? I think she said, could you give me it quickly? And she said it with, this is what New Agers who ask me about my Catholic conversion are like. They're baffled. They're totally baffled. Like, how can you do this? Because of this deep, deep certainty that SBNR is not just another multicultural option. No, it's the way forward into the future. Get rid of religion. It's the way forward into the future. Scratch the surface, and that's what you're going to find, at least, in real New Age, like I used to be. Anyway, I think, she said, can you put it to me quickly? And I found myself actually having just one word for her. Just came to my lips. And I said, humanness. It's given me humanness. And I don't think she had a clue what I meant. But that word, humanness, sums up what I'm trying to say about a heart that becomes sensitized to suffering, becomes sensitized to remorse, it becomes sensitized to joy, that it becomes sensitized to things like piety. Piety, like I feel in this Legion of Mary, that you will not find in the New Age in the same way. All those things are making me more human. And when I first came to Ireland, I actually felt like this is the most human society I've ever been in. I've lived in 7 different countries, by the way. I felt there was something deeply, deeply human about the Irish, and I'm concerned that's getting lost. So I think my time is just about finished. This is just a very brief thing. As Stephen says, I have some books, and they're over there for sale. I also have a YouTube channel where I try to go into all of these things more, including my conversion. But really, I just want to end with this notion that the Catholic mystery brings humanness. And what we see in dancing in the streets over killing babies is a loss of humanness. Thank you.